Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Nassim, and it's my pleasure to be moderating today's session on innovation and inspiration, public-private partnerships as a catalyst for the next generation, which is organized by the Next Generation Plenary Steering Committee on behalf of the IAF's Committee on Workforce Development, Young Professionals Program, the Space Education and Outreach Committee, the Entrepreneur and Investment Committee, the Global Earth Observation System of Systems Subcommittee, and the Space Generation Advisory Council. Additionally, today's session is sponsored by Lockheed Martin. We are grateful for the support of everyone in highlighting the contributions of the next generation in the space industry. I would now like to introduce our representative from Lockheed Martin Corporation, Joe Landon. Joe Landon is Vice President of Advanced Programs Development for Lockheed Martin's commercial civil space line of business. He leads an organization accountable for new business growth, strategy, and R&D for human spaceflight, robotic deep space exploration, commercial communication satellites, weather, and climate science markets. Previously, Joe served as CFO of Planetary Resources, a company that sought to expand Earth's economy into the solar system through the development and use of resources found in space. Joe also co-founded Space Angels, the leading source of capital for early-stage space ventures. Joe is an associate fellow of AIAA, a member of the International Academy of Astronautics, and a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on Space. He graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University with a BS in Engineering Physics. He earned an MS in Aerospace Engineering from the University of Southern California and an MBA from Harvard Business School. Over to you, Joe.
Great, thanks, Miriam. Appreciate it. I'm excited to kick off today's Next Gen networking session. As Miriam said, public-private partnerships as a catalyst for the next generation. At Lockheed Martin, we understand the critical importance that students and early career professionals play in our industry. The space sector is counting on your energy, ideas, and expertise to lead us confidently in the future. Space exploration and development is still complex and difficult, and partnerships that are focused on shared opportunity are essential to achieving our goals to explore the farthest reaches of our solar system and to develop a thriving in-space economy. At Lockheed Martin, we're embracing new types of partnerships and innovative ways of collaborating to build new capabilities in space. Most recently, our teaming with Blue Origin and the national team to develop NASA's human lunar lander is a great example of how different but complementary partners can come together to achieve big things. Today's panel will be an interactive discussion between you, our audience, and students and promising early career space professionals from around the world. They're eager to share their experiences with you, and I look forward to a great discussion. Back to you, Miriam.
So much, Joe. Thank you for highlighting our panel. I'd now like to introduce our amazing panelists. We'll start with Julie Ann Bonatau, a satellite engineer at Stamina for Space. Over to you, Julie, for the introduction.
Thank you, Mariam. Hello, everyone. As Mariam mentioned, I work for Stamina for Space, which is the Philippine government program to build our own microsatellites. I recently got my PhD in aerospace engineering from Tohoku University in Japan. I was actually sent to Japan by the Philippine government as part of the partnership with Japanese universities to build our own microsatellites. I was involved in the end-to-end design and development of the microsatellite Diwata 2, which was launched on October 2018. My PhD research focused on the feasibility of using AI to automate operations of an Earth observation microsatellite. I was exposed to the possibilities of different components of the space sector when I participated in the Space Studies program of the International Space University in Strasbourg, France. I'm here to provide a perspective on how a developing country like the Philippines utilized PPPs to jumpstart space activities in our country. Back to you, Mariam.
Thank you, Julie, for the amazing introduction. Next up, I have Joshua Ingersoll, Spacecraft Systems Engineer at the Aerospace Corporation. Take it away, Joshua.
Thank you, Miriam. Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Ingersoll, and I'm currently serving as a spacecraft systems engineer at the Aerospace Corporation in Chantilly, Virginia. In this role, I help analyze and develop conceptual spacecraft designs for future defense, weather, and navigation space systems. The Aerospace Corporation is a federally funded research and development center that works with defense, civil, and commercial customers alike. During the summer of 2019, I had the opportunity to take part in the Matthew I. Sockowitz Fellowship Program, where I supported OneWeb Satellites' bid in the DARPA Blackjack program. This work led me to develop a new integration strategy analysis tool for implementing next-generation optical communication hardware in both OneWeb and DARPA's constellations. I'm a recent master's graduate from Georgia Tech's Space Systems Design Lab, and I can't wait to continue pushing our industry forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. I'd now like to introduce Elizabeth Barrios, PhD candidate and graduate research assistant at the University of Central Florida. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Miriam. Like Miriam said, I am a PhD candidate in material science at the University of Central Florida, and my PhD work has focused on developing new materials for thermoelectric devices, so devices that can convert heat into electricity and supply power to spacecraft where other technologies might fail. This work was made possible by participating in a partnership with NASA in the form of a research grant. So this research grant has allowed me to use NASA expertise while addressing a problem in a very innovative, high-stake way that might not be as easily tackled by a NASA employee alone. In addition to my schooling, I have also been a NASA intern throughout my PhD, working on the fabrication and analysis of composite components for the Commercial Crew Program, which is another type of PPP. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I would now like to introduce Ghanem Al-Taibi, mechanical engineer at Kuwait University. Ghanem, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariam. As you said, my name is Ghanem Al-Taibi, and I am currently working as a mechanical engineer in a CubeSat project for Kuwait University. Working for the CubeSat project came after a 10 years journey of being involved in space outreach activities to promote the establishment of a space program in Kuwait. Before I shift my career to the space sector, I was working in the oil sector. I am also the Middle East Regional Coordinator for the Space Generation Advisory Council and the project manager of the Moon Village Participation of Emerging Space Countries. As I am an amateur astronomer and I am a space enthusiast as well, I have conducted 2 rotations as an analog astronaut at the Mars Desert Research Station, in which I served as the crew astronomer in both missions. I am an ISU graduate, International Space University. I have graduate certificate in astronomy from Spinwen University in Australia, and I have a master's degree in solar energy from Freiburg University in Germany. I am interested in the topic of space-based solar power, and I aspire for a research career in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ghanem. And our final panelist, Tobias Niederweiser, who is a research associate at BioServe Space Technologies at the University of Colorado Boulder. Tobias, over to you.
Thank you, Mariam. Yes, we here at BioServe are working together already today in public-private partnerships to conduct biological research in space. And we are doing this to enable both future human space exploration by developing life support systems or researching biomining. But mainly, we are doing this for improving life here on Earth by finding new treatments or looking into biomanufacturing. In my specific role, I have been enabling these science experiments by designing the infrastructure that you need to operate those experiments in the space environment. So, for example, I have helped to design Sable, a smart research facility that has been operating on board the ISS for now over 5 years and has thus far enabled over 30 different experiments from startups, companies, research institutes, and universities. Or, for example, PLASM, which is a completely autonomous facility that was designed for a DNA radiation study that will be flying around the moon on board the Artemis 1 mission next year. Thanks very much for having me on the panel.
Thank you, Tobias. We're now going to be kicking off the discussion session of our panel. So I encourage the audience, please ask your questions on Slido. And you've heard the amazing things our panelists are doing, so now it's your chance to interact with them. I will kick off with some questions we already got from social media. So our first question from social media is, how do PPPs drive innovation? I would like to direct this to Liz, and then we'll get some comments from Tobias.
Thanks, Miriam. So I believe that public-private partnerships are one of the best ways to move our industry forward and to bring innovation into the industry. It allows us to bring people together and to communicate and tackle problems in ways that we can't do in just one entity. So we can't just do it at NASA, we can't just do it at a university. So it really encourages alternative ways of thinking. And I have an example with my work in that I've been able to be very innovative by using NASA historical expertise, so building off of what they already know, but also having the flexibility of working in a university setting. So I'm able to help NASA expand their research profile and achieve some far-reaching ideas without really any loss in time in their like current high-hitting mission directives. So it allows us to try and fail numerous times without compromising any forward motion of the industry. Thank you.
Thanks for the interesting perspective, Elizabeth. Tobias, your thoughts?
Yeah, I truly think that innovation comes through collaboration because you are bringing together ideas from different disciplines to create new things. And so, for example, when we are doing research in space, we have the expertise from scientists, whether it is plant scientists or scientists that have researched cancer cells all lifelong. We have the expertise to conduct experiments in the space environment. So by bringing those two things together, we actually can try out experiment in space environment, in microgravity. And then we have the public element to this, for example, with NASA and the launch providers that actually help us to get our experiments into the space environment. So it's already today a very synergetic relationship between public, private entities to conduct this research in space. And I really think making these connections is crucial because no one knows which areas will lead to success in the future. So just trying these things out and finding business cases will make the space sector more sustainable in the long term.
Awesome. Thank you, Tobias. Indeed, collaboration is key with PPPs. We now have, I have an interesting question from social media. In what ways can the next generation leverage PPPs to grow their career? And I'm sure this is very relevant for a lot of our early career audience. Julie, would you like to start with your insights into that one?
Sure, Mariam. Okay, so my main advice would be to expand your network and try to start collaborations with colleagues all around the world. The microsatellite program of the Philippines actually started from a random meeting of one of our officials and a Japanese professor. Also, one of the professors in my lab back in Japan started an asteroid prospecting collaboration with a European private company after a random meeting in a bar. So you never know when an opportunity may come up, but having an extensive network will surely help. That's all, Mariam.
Wow, thanks for that. Did you hear asteroid prospecting initiative in a bar? Wow. Liz, did you add something?
Yeah, sure. So I believe that public-private partnerships are great for, you know, growing in your career, whether you're in school or whether you're already early on in your career. So if you're in school and you can get your hands in some sort of public partnership, you really get the chance to be involved in very important work early on in your career and make those connections that can allow you to excel as you do step into the workforce. And if you're already in the workforce and learning how to, get involved and how to grow, it also allows you to have access to a broader impact of work and research and initiatives that are going on within your company itself, as well as the greater aerospace community. And it constantly changes and challenges you to think outside of the box and really helps you grow in that technical area as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. Joshua, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add on here. One thing that I've noticed that the effects that public-private partnerships have had for young professionals is the number of companies and employers that you can possibly work for in the space industry has proliferated by over an order of magnitude in the past 20 years. No longer are there only the prime contractors or civil space agencies. There's also these tiny companies. There's startups building lunar landers. There's 100 different small launch companies trying to build cheaper rockets and lower the barrier to orbit. There's so many different ways that you can get involved in the space industry now, and this proliferation of employers has been driven by the extensive use of public-private partnerships.
Awesome. Thank you, Joshua. And another interesting question, which I think it's very relevant because we have such a diverse group from emerging nations here as well, is how do PPPs make space access more equitable? Ghanem, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Yes, sure. So thank you for this question. I would like to use the BESC project as an example to answer this question. So I hope everyone have seen the video before the panel. The BESC project can be seen from different perspectives. And of course, fair distribution of resources is a big topic. But the problem is there are really many countries around the world are not involved in the moon discussion. So one of the core ideas of the BESC project is to involve emerging space countries and non-spacefaring countries into the discussion to start to formulate new policies for the moon. If you want to have equal distribution of resources, you have to be involved in this discussion. Of course, there are two approaches. And by the way, this can be also part of the answer of the previous question about how BBB can be an opportunity for career in your early career. So there are two approaches if you want to do this. There are the top-down approach and the bottom down. If you are a young professional and you would like to really involve your country in this discussion for fair distribution of resources, the BESC project is really a good start for you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ghanem. And then some final thoughts from Julie, because I know Philippines, the capacity building initiative for the space sector that you were involved in, you might have some insights on this one.
That's correct, Mariam. So PPPs can pave the way for developing countries to also have access to space. I can speak from our experience in the Philippines, where we were able to launch a total of 3 small satellites into orbit to date with the help of partnerships with universities in Japan. And it's also not just us. From the success of our first microsatellite, Diwata 1, other countries in the Southeast Asian region like Myanmar and Malaysia have also decided to develop similar small satellites. An Asian microsatellite consortium was also founded in 2016 among 9 Asian countries, most of which are developing ones, to share space technology and satellite data with each other. This way, ASEAN nations can move forward with space-related activities that would otherwise be out of reach due to the limited budgets of each individual nation. That's my thought.
Thank you, Julie. And our last very interesting question from social media, looking to the future. Do you think PPPs are necessary to move humanity beyond LEO? Joshua, you want to say something here?
Yeah, and it's probably when you hear necessary, if you're speaking to a technical audience with technical panelists, the first thing that probably comes to mind is the technical benefits of PPPs. But I would argue that while the technical benefits of PPPs are very great for moving humanity beyond Leo, I think that the political benefits of having these um, uh, proliferated relationships between the civil and commercial sectors are actually what is going to allow humanity to progress beyond Leo. Mike Gold, last week speaking at a Heritage Foundation, Mike is the associate administrator for the Office of International Relations at NASA, said that there's no rocket equation for sustained congressional support. So, from a U.S. perspective, these PPPs will allow greater continuity between administrations to achieve loftier goals in the area of human spaceflight.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your insights, Joshua. And Ghanem, I think you wanted to add something here.
Yes, I would in a short way, definitely PPP will contribute. For example, um, uh, uh, going to the moon now is derived by is accessible, will be more accessible by low and cheap launching cost, and this is actually derived by companies or startups like SpaceX and Blue Origin. And of course, that's going to be a revolution, not only for countries that are with well-known programs to the moon, but also for emerging space countries.
And now we're going to kick off our section where we have live interaction with the audience and address some of their questions on Slido. So let's see what we have here. What do you think will be the added value of the next generation for the public-private partnership in the near and long future? Tobias, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, of course. So I think that we are living in really amazing times right now where we have new platforms becoming available, and it is now really on us, the new generation, to use these platforms. I don't think we ever had such a frequent access to space and such a cheap access to space. So for us, it is to use all of these opportunities and to really look how can we use this with things that we have never done before, and how we can sorry.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. We truly are living in exciting times. Did anyone else want to add to that question? Joshua, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. I bet in the short term, like I said, you're going to see technologies that are not able to be developed by any one single player. In my own personal experience, optical communications for mega constellations such as OneWeb or Project Kuiper from Amazon or SpaceX's Starlink. Um, Optical communications are the next step in high bandwidth secure communications across the globe without having to go through terrestrial infrastructure. So this is already being leveraged by there have been tribes in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S., indigenous tribes that recently were able to get internet because of programs like SpaceX's Starlink. And so these you're going to see technologies develop in the next 5-10 years that would not be possible without public-private partnerships. And then moving forward, you're going to see since these capabilities are developed by commercial entities, more equitable access to space because these commercial entities will be able to offer these technologies to players that are outside of just the home country of that entity. So basically, a high tide raises all boats. over the next 10 to 20 years.
Awesome, great insights, Joshua. Very exciting times with technologies all across the world changing the way we interact with space and the different applications available. Let's take a look at Slido for other questions. So, what do you see as the key to success in public-private partnerships in space? Elizabeth, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the key successes in having a good public-private partnership that has a lot of output is communication. So I think that, right now we're in such a unique time where we have access to communicate with people all over the world. I mean, look at the platform for IAC. So finding out ways to leverage those types of communication tools, and then actively communicating throughout whatever endeavor you're trying to achieve through the public-private partnership. I believe that's one of the biggest keys to success in that. And sometimes trying to figure out how to communicate, especially with people across the country or across the world, is one of the most difficult things. So you need to be able to be flexible with those folks that you're working with, and just be open to new ways of communicating to be successful.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's very interesting to hear your insights from your own experiences. So next, let's see what we have on Slido. Why should governments of developing countries invest in space technology, and how does PPP come in the picture? So let's start with our panelists who are from developing countries. So Ghanim, do you want to start, and then we'll get Julie's thoughts on this as well?
Yes, space is the future. Developing countries really need a lot of investment in education and scientific research. It's a matter of survival, and space provides a great opportunity for scientific research. There are, of course, broad fields within the space field. There are space application. There are something about space exploration. But in the end of the day, having a space program within your country means that you are promoting scientific research, which might contribute to other fields. In addition to that, we are really witnessing a revolution. We are living in a very exciting time because of the low cost of launching, and it's going to be lower in the future as well. The future is going to be space, and investing in space in terms of scientific research in any field will be beneficial for the future. And emerging space countries, developing countries around the world need to be involved in this as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ghanim. Yes, indeed, the time is now to start, capacity building in the space sector. So, Julianne, would you like to say a few thoughts?
Yeah, adding to what Ganim said, so developing countries may have a limited role in the more advanced space exploration attempts and rocket building, but can definitely leverage space technology with smaller but no less important goals. I think the secret lies in finding the niche market where we can get the biggest return on the investment. For example, in the Philippines, this is on using satellite observation to mitigate impacts of natural disasters, boost crop production, and ensure natural resources are not wasted. So investing in building our own satellites instead of just subscribing to commercially available data opens up a lot of opportunities available only to countries with a presence in the upstream sector in space. This include, as Ganim said, job creation and value chain spillover to related sectors such as electronics and manufacturing, thus enhancing also our global market position and competitiveness. That's all.
Thank you, Julianne. So let's take a look at Slido for further questions from the audience. Nice. How can we improve our international cooperation in PPPs in space? Tobias, would you like to take a shot at that one?
Yes, of course. So I think space agencies all around the world are already doing a great job to foster collaboration. They have different missions where people work together from different countries. And but I think what the benefit of these PPPs is that we can disconnect the missions from space agency, which are really driven by the political will, and we can make it sustainable by really economic reasonings behind them. And if we have that, I think we have a much bigger sustainability that is not as much influenced by the political will. And with that, also international collaboration is more on us than actually given top down from a space agency, for example.
Thank you, Tobias. Would anyone else like to add that question? Or shall we look at other questions? Good? Okay, let's take a look at Slido. I think we have time for maybe one more question. So, is there a specific field in which the next generation could, I believe this is succeed and improve it compared to perhaps other areas in the space sector? Would anyone like to answer this question and perhaps provide a PPP spin on this one? Joshua, it looks like you're thinking, like you want to say something.
Oh, I'm just trying to come up with a good example. I think that the best thing about PPPs is that they are being implemented all across the industry, developing rockets and satellites and communications hardware and ways to sell data. Um, when I heard the question, my brain raced. I thought of probably like 5 or 6 different examples all across industry, and I don't think that there's any. In my personal opinion, I don't think that there's any one area that the next generation or can help develop through the use of PPPs. I think that the industry or the world is your oyster. You just have to crack it. There's so much that can be done all across the industry. I don't think there's one individual example that comes directly to mind.
Okay, Elizabeth, did you want to add to this one?
Yeah, I think I could add to this a little. So, like Josh said, I don't think that there's one specific area that you can succeed and really improve in order to advance our space industry to the next step. I guess from my personal experience, my advice to anybody who is trying to get involved in a public-private partnership would be to really find what you're passionate about and find a mentor or a champion that can help you maybe find those public-private partnerships to start. Maybe you can start a completely new one. And I think that would be the best way for you as an individual to impact the space industry, because there's no reason to limit yourself to like, oh, it needs to be in this specific technical area, or it needs to be in this, specific, maybe political area of the aerospace industry. So I think the reach is far, and it just comes down to like what you're passionate about and to find the people who can support you in achieving that.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Joshua and Elizabeth, for those thoughts. And this concludes our Q&A section of the panel. So now let's move to some closing thoughts from our panelists. Tobias, would you like to give your final thoughts as we conclude today?
Yeah, thank you. I think we are living really in unprecedented times with new commercial space stations becoming available and space becoming more and more accessible through these public-private partnerships. And I really think that we, as the next generation, have to take the opportunity to conduct more science experiments in our on-orbit facilities and to not be limited by access to space or crew time or number of available platforms as we currently are, because only when we have the ability to really try things out, we can find the real surprises and potentials of microgravity.
I love it. Thank you, Tobias. Next up, Ghanem, your final thoughts on this topic?
We are living in an exciting time, of course. we will be witnessing, the next generation will be witnessing a revolution in space. In 20 years from today, we will really have extremely exciting projects and from initiatives, many initiatives around the world currently. There are opportunities for emerging space countries and also non-spacefaring countries to be involved in this.
Thank you, Ghanem. Elizabeth, what would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I believe that public-private partnerships are one of the best ways to really move our industry forward and to create really innovative technologies to address all the technical challenges that we currently have. In terms of the next generation, I believe it allows us the ability to work on a very diverse and constantly changing and challenging portfolio of work. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Joshua, your final remarks?
I'm on mute. So like I said earlier, high tide raises all boats. PPPs will allow for new technology to be developed and that technology to be more easily exported between different political entities. The increased commercial nature of space will cause the acceleration of new technologies and will carry humanity beyond LEO for the first time since the 1970s. For us next generation space enthusiasts, there's never been a better time to get into space.
Yes, truly. Julie, as we wrap up the session, your final thoughts for the audience.
So building on what my fellow panelists mentioned, I hope everyone got to learn more about the potential of PPPs to boost the space economy and make it more inclusive, especially for developing countries. And for the young professionals and emerging space leaders all over the world, I hope some of you got inspired to leverage strategic partnerships, build a smarter and stronger future, bridged and empowered through the peaceful uses of outer space. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for your amazing thoughts, sharing your experiences and inspirational words with the next generation audience. So yes, I thank you all my panelists, for your contribution to the next generation and to PPPs. And I would like to also thank the IAF Steering Committee. Thanks also to our audience for tuning in. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to address them on social media using the hashtag AskNGP. Thank you all today for tuning in.